They say the sea keeps its secrets. That some ships are born of shadow and storm, sailing on tides of myth and dread. This is the story of one such ship, the Obsidian Heart, and the job that would change everything. It began, as these things often do, in a place you'd only find if you were already lost. A tavern tucked away in the grimiest corner of the port, smelling of cheap ale and desperation. I was young, hungry for adventure, or maybe just hungry. That's when he found me. A hooded figure, face lost to the shadows, who slid a sealed letter across the sticky table without a word. The wax seal was a kraken strangling a skull. Intrigued? I was. The offer was simple. A job, a ship, a voyage. The pay was more gold than I'd ever seen. The details? Vague, dangerously so. I found myself on a moonlit dock that very night. The air thick with salt and secrets. Crates were being loaded, sailors moved with a grim purpose, their faces hard. Leaning against a lantern post, a recruiter watched me, his smile thin and unsettling. He handed me the contract. It was old parchment, the ink still smelling faintly of blood and something else, something arcane. Cryptic symbols along the border seemed to glow with a faint, sickly light. My hand trembled as I gripped it, a knot of uncertainty tightening in my gut. Was this bravery or foolishness? A raven, perched high on the mast of the ship, let out a sharp cry as lightning split the sky, illuminating the vessel in a flash. It was a monster of black wood and dark sails. They called it the Obsidian Heart. Leading onto the deck was a creaky gangplank that seemed to groan under the weight of my decision. The captain greeted me. He was a mountain of a man, his face a roadmap of old scars, and his eyes were like chips of ice. He barked orders, his voice a gravelly roar that cut through the rising wind. He spoke of the job, but his words were like fog, hinting at a great prize but revealing nothing of the path to it. He told me my only duty was to protect the cargo, and to never, ever ask what was inside. That should have been my first warning. Down in the cargo hold, the air was cold and still. The place was a chaotic maze of chained chests, strange glowing artifacts, and crates branded with runes I'd never seen. One crate hummed with a low, constant energy. Another ticked like a malevolent clock. I found a journal tucked away, its pages filled with the frantic scrawl of a previous crew member. He wrote of a dangerous job with uncertain pay, of whispers in the dark and a growing sense of dread. The final entry just said, "The curse is real." A chill that had nothing to do with the sea air crept down my spine. The ship gave a sudden lurch, and a lantern swung violently, casting dancing, distorted shadows across the hold. It felt like the ship itself was alive, and it wasn't happy to have us. Later, in the captain's smoky cabin, I saw maps spread across a massive table. They depicted routes through cursed waters, past islands that weren't on any official chart. A magical compass on his desk spun wildly, its needle refusing to settle, as if torn between a dozen impossible directions. I overheard a sailor admitting to another that no one really knew the details of the job. They were just following the captain and the gold. But fear was a currency they were all trading in. That night, I saw it, a ghostly figure in the reflection of my porthole, just for a second, before it vanished. The moon turned a deep blood red, casting an eerie light across the deck. I knew then, this was no ordinary voyage. We weren't just carrying cargo. We were ferrying a secret, and the sea wanted it back. The days bled into a tense routine of work and watchfulness. The storm that had been brewing finally broke, a monstrous tempest with waves like liquid mountains crashing over the hull. The lookout clung to the crow's nest, his shouts swallowed by the roaring wind. During a lull, a crewman was sharpening his cutlass, his eyes darting around suspiciously, trusting no one. We all felt it, a presence on the ship, something that wasn't part of the crew. A deckhand dropped a crate when he swore he heard whispers coming from inside it. I started exploring, driven by a need to understand. I found a narrow staircase, hidden behind a tapestry, descending into a forbidden's lower deck. The air grew colder with each step down. Down there, the ship's true nature began to reveal itself. A secret hatch on the deck led to a hidden compartment filled with waterlogged chests. One was branded with the same strange runes from the cargo hold. I managed to pry it open. Inside, among silt and seaweed, was a broken statue head and a single rusted key. It looked exactly like the one hanging from the captain's belt. In a locked room, I found a glowing orb hovering over a pedestal, pulsing with a soft, hypnotic light. Touching it was like plunging my mind into ice. I saw visions. a bustling port market, then a coded message in invisible ink being revealed by candlelight. I saw a giant sea creature's silhouette moving beneath our ship. I saw our ship, the Obsidian Heart, sailing into a swirling vortex of purple lightning. The crew's morale was shattering. Arguments broke out in the mess hall. A sailor nervously showed me a glowing brand that had appeared on his arm overnight, identical to the one burned into the ship's main mast. He whispered that the job was cursed, that the ship itself demanded a price. One night, a thick, unnatural fog enveloped us, and in the eerie silence, we saw him, a ghostly sailor, walking the deck before fading into nothing. The captain just ordered silence, his face a grim mask. He knew what was happening. Later, I found a secret book of ship legends in his desk. It spoke of the Black Ship's curse, a pact made with an ancient sea entity. The ship delivers a forbidden artifact, and in return, the sea claims a soul, or sometimes the whole crew. The supernatural events escalated. A magical storm cloud began following us, never leaving, a constant shadow on the horizon. Chains rattled in empty cages. A soft chanting echoed through the corridors with no source. One night, a glowing jellyfish swarm lit up the ocean, and in their light, I saw a massive eye open and close just beneath the surface. A crew member fainted, screaming that the cargo was whispering his name. I found a ritual circle drawn in chalk on the floor of the lower deck, and near it, a cracked pocket watch, its hands ticking backward. The captain finally gathered us. He spoke not of gold, but of a sacred duty, a job they must finish to maintain a delicate balance. But his eyes betrayed a flicker of fear. As we sailed toward a massive cliff wall that seemed to block our path, the ship began to tremble violently. The water around us began to glow with an unnatural, toxic light. The cliff face shimmered, and a massive opening appeared, a gateway into a hidden sea. The captain turned to me. "The contract," he rasped, "has a hidden page." My blood ran cold. I rushed to my quarters, and using a candle's heat, I revealed the invisible ink. It wasn't a contract for pay. It was a binding agreement. My name was written next to the words, "The Guardian." My job wasn't to protect the cargo from the outside world, but to protect the world from the cargo. As I stepped back on deck, a shimmering barrier formed around the ship. An eerie bell began to ring on its own. The crew readied their weapons, not for pirates, but for something far older. The final page of the contract described the true nature of the job. I looked out at the impossible sea ahead, the weight of the secret now mine to carry. My adventure had just begun, and I was determined to see it through, though every part of me screamed in fear. The sea keeps its secrets, but some secrets refuse to stay buried. Thanks for joining me on this dark voyage. If you love tales of mystery and the unknown, make sure to follow for more stories from the edge of the map.